Don Snyder was only 16 days old when his mother died. For the next 47 years, he and his twin brother knew little about her. But with his father in ailing health, Snyder went on a journey to uncover his parents' love story, and along the way discovered his mother's ultimate sacrifice. He tells his story in the moving book of Time and Memory, A Mother's Story. Good morning, Don. Good to see you.
Good morning, John.
This is an incredible story. For half a century, you never really thought about your mother's life, and then a trip to the attic with your daughter changed all that. Tell us what happened.
Well, it was a winter night 2.5 years ago, and my daughter had awakened, my youngest daughter had awakened with a fever. She was upset, and she wanted a doll that I couldn't find. So I thought perhaps it was in the attic, and we went in the attic searching, and a photograph fell out of a box, and it was a black and white photo of my mother and father on their wedding day, sitting in the back seat of the car, about to leave, for their honeymoon. And my daughter carried it downstairs with me. I was even unaware that she had it still in her hand, and she asked me who the people were. I said, well, that's my father, your grandfather, and that was my mother, who you never will know. And two things happened. In the first instance, I was struck by the fact that I couldn't tell my daughter anything about her grandmother. I didn't know anything. And the second, it was the look of joy on my father's face in that photograph. I think we all wonder about our parents when they were young and what their love story was like. But I thought then, if I could find out everything there is to know about their love story and return my mother to this world, in a sense, maybe I could get that look back on my father's face, that smile that he had in the photograph.
Yet, and some people might ask, how could you live that long and not know anything about your mother? What do you say to them?
Well, it's something that I can't completely explain, except for I knew that there was a great sadness that had taken place, that my father had suffered a terrible loss, and I think my brother and I both sensed that this was something that we didn't talk about because it would bring up too many painful memories. It was a different time in the 1950s. People believed, they didn't talk about things the way they do today. They'd been through the Depression and the war, and sadness was something you had to go and live beyond, and in order to be a whole person.
Maybe you could explain why your mother died and how your mother died.
Well, this was, it was after about a year of doing research, I found out that, number one, she was 19 when she died, just a girl, and that she had died from, the cause of death was a condition called eclampsia, which is still today the primary cause of death among pregnant women. It's a condition where the fetus actually poisons the mother, and the only cure for it is to deliver the baby. In those days, had we been delivered in time to save her life, we would have died. There was no, they didn't have respirators then to keep babies alive that are born 3 or 4 months early.
In one point in the book, you write of feeling blood on your hands or playing a part in your mother's death. Mm-hmm. Do you still feel some guilt?
I feel guilt. I mean, I'm responsible in a way for the fact that she never had a chance to live, but the guilt has slowly been replaced now by this sense of awe. I think to be able to tell my children about her now, and to be able to tell them about the mystery and power of love, is to me a great privilege. For example, if you think about it, John, I was born in 1950. My mother lived 16 days after I was born. And yet I know now that I must have loved her, grown to love her so deeply in those 16 days that her death cut a gash in my heart that 50 years later leads to this book. So I know something now about the mystery of love that I didn't know before.
And that's really changed your life.
It has. It's changed my life. In small ways, I can see my mother and her love in my own children, and it's also made me aware of the great privilege that it is just to be able to watch your children grow up.
It's a very moving story. Don Snyder, thanks for sharing it with us this morning.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to read an excerpt from Of Time and Memory, you can find it on our website at weekendtoday.msnbc.com.